All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our stream on codeLive. For those of you who are very new to codeLive, my name is Mohit. I'm a principal developer advocate here at Salesforce, and I'm really excited and I'm glad you're here. Thank you for your time. And today we have an exciting episode actually working on our Agentforce DX Pro Code tools. And we have with me the product manager himself, Vivek. Vivek, welcome to Code Live.
Hey, Mohit. Good to see you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm Vivek Chawla. I'm the product manager for Agentforce DX Pro Code. Also the project manager for Platform CLI and our DX Foundation libraries.
Awesome, awesome. And thank you, Vivek. I know you are very busy shipping all these amazing innovations. And I know that it's crazy time right now because the innovations are at the peak. So thank you for your time. So for everyone today, here's our agenda. We'll first start uh, with an introduction about these tools. Vivek will give us an introduction. I know a lot of you would have used these tools, but for some of you, this might be new. So how about let's get ourselves familiar with these tools, why these tools exist, and then it's all going to be live demos and live code here. So I'm really excited to walk you through all of this. And Vivek, how about we get started by talking through these pro code tools?
You bet. You bet. Go ahead and share my screen.
Yeah,
Can everyone see it?
absolutely. Let's bring up that screen share. There you go.
Okay. So, folks, I'm just going to go through a few slides just to set the context. I'm going to go real fast because I really want to spend as much time as possible, kind of getting hands on and really, showing you this stuff live instead of slides. So here we go. Of course, forward-looking statements. We will be using some things that most of what we use is going to be GA, but there will be some things that are not quite GA. So remember to make any purchasing or development decisions on solely generally available features. Okay, so the first thing I want to get into is why do we need a pro code developer experience for agents? We get a lot of feedback from our pro code developers that context switching from the IDE into an org is challenging. Like every time that you have to go from the IDE to get into the org to do something, it's a context switch. You kind of lose your flow, and so pro code developers really want to stay in the IDE as much as possible. Now, what's crazy is that Agentforce DX, Agentforce is amazing, and there's so many new and wonderful org-based builders, and that's great if you're low code. But we wanted to try to make sure that we have a pro code alternative as well. Also, pro code tooling enables DevOps workflows. So if you can't do it from the CLI, you can't put it in your CI/CD pipeline, right? And finally, when we have source and artifacts that are in our Git repositories that are easy to work with, it's also easy for multiple people to work with them. And I think when we're doing pro code tools right, we're actually enabling pro code developers without taking anything away from low code counterparts. So are there ways that low code and pro code can play well together? And again, these are kind of the principles that we try to follow when building pro code tools. So that leads me to introducing Agentforce DX Pro Code. These are a set of tools for Salesforce CLI, VSCode, and Code Builder. They work in all those environments. And there's three main areas of functionality that we've delivered so far. First is agent creation, and there's tools from the CLI to do that. Next is agent testing. Now, there's tools from the CLI, but there's also a really wonderful UX for this inside of VSCode to run agent tests. And then finally, doing agent previews from the CLI. That's basically like having a conversation with an agent as if you were in an agent builder. And we're going to go through all of this, live. Let me see, get to the next slide. All right, so how do you get this stuff? First, you want to make sure that hopefully you've already installed the Salesforce CLI and VS Code. So I'm assuming that. Update your CLI. Make sure you have the latest version. You can just run SF update. If you're using Node to install or manage your Salesforce CLI install, you do an npm install -g at Salesforce CLI. The Salesforce, or sorry, the Agent Force plugin for the CLI is what we call a JIT, or just-in-time installed plugin. So all you need to do to actually get the plugin installed is run any agent command. And good example there is just SF agent generate agent spec. You don't have to finish anything with the command. Just run it for the first time, and it'll actually install, the right version of the agents plugin. And then finally, you want to install the Agentforce DX extension inside of VS Code or Code Builder. It's in the marketplace on both. So you would just go to the extensions pane, do a search for Agentforce DX, and it should pop right up. Just click install, and you're good to go. Now, the other thing you'll need is a developer environment. It can be challenging to maybe get all this stuff set up for the first time. And if you're working in a company and maybe you haven't quite adopted agents inside your company, and you don't want to really mess with a sandbox, or you definitely don't want to mess with production, right? These new Agentforce and Data Cloud DE environments are fantastic. And so there's you just go to I think it's the regular
Yeah, it's regular developer.salesforce.com.
exactly
It's /sign up
up there, and this is something that I'll walk you through some of the setup stuff that you have to do to get everything working. Okay, so that would be where we'd normally go into a demo, but we're going to go away from slides, and we're actually going to do this live together. So there's a QR code at the top right of the screen. That's going to take you to, actually, I'll just show you here. That's going to take you to this repository. It's on my personal account. It's AFDX Pro Code Test Drive. Mm-hmm. Now, this repo has everything you need for like a basic, simple, kind of easy to wrap your heads around agent experience. And then that way, and there's a pre-built agent with some pre-built tests, and then a whole bunch of instructions that'll help you just kind of get up to speed and just get started with an agent. I know personally, as I was onboarding and trying to get better with understanding and agents and building agents, it just really helped to have like a simple kind of explanation or demo of things that I could build off of that. So that's what I've tried to do with this. So when you clone that repository into VS Code, what you'll get is something like this. And what I'm going to show you how to do is, if you open the README file, if you actually use the preview and then close the README, you can get this nice kind of full screen version of the README with the images. And that's going to be good because there's going to be some places where I'm going to copy and paste some CLI commands, from the README. So that's how we're going to set things up. And we're just going to go through some of the steps. And by the way, Mo, if anyone has questions, let's keep this interactive, right?
Absolutely.
I would encourage you all to, throw questions out. Mo, when you see a good one, just stop me, interrupt whatever I'm doing, and we'll talk about it. How's that?
Absolutely. No, this is awesome. So please, everyone, feel free to use that chat panel right there and get in all your questions. I mean, it's very rare that we have Vivek here. It's very hard to get Vivek's time. So Vivek is here. Let's just make full use of it.
Awesome. All right. So first thing is signing up for developer-edition.org. I've already done that. And then we're going to do some settings. First is enabling knowledge. I think I did that. Let me just double check. Knowledge settings. Okay, I did not. Cool. I get to show you this. So I was supposed to do this before enabling Data Cloud. So I forgot. Don't do what I just did here, but let me enable knowledge. Now, we're not going to use knowledge in any of the examples that I have right now, but this is something that you'll want to have set up in your DE environment, because eventually this Agentforce DX test drive, Pro Code test drive that I'm working on, it will have knowledge and Agentforce libraries that utilize some knowledge examples to kind of expand on the agents that we're building. So if don't worry if we're not going to use this, just enable it anyways. Okay, I enabled knowledge. The thing I wanted to show you was this, the data cloud setup.
Mm-hmm.
So this can actually take, I'm already set up, right? The reason why I set this up before was that this can sometimes take anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. Often it's like 15 minutes and it's done. But if it takes 30 minutes, if it takes an hour, and in fact, what it will look like, if I scroll down here, it'll look like this while it's being set up, and just go away and come back when it's done. Luckily, in these DE orgs, I've never seen this fail. So it is going to succeed at some point. You just gotta be patient. So when it's done, you'll see it has all this. I've got my home org ID, home org instance, all of these things. So this means Data Cloud is set up. Perfect. So then the next step is to set up Einstein and Agentforce. So let me show you, because there's one little trick with that. When you go to Einstein setup, and I'm going to turn this on with this toggle over here. Now, if I try to search for Agentforce, because that's the next setup, I'm not going to find anything because the Agentforce setup tree item doesn't exist until you turn on Einstein, but my browser doesn't know about it until I refresh. So I just hit Command R. Sorry, I was off camera. So I've refreshed this page, right? Or you could use the icon. Now, if I search for Agent, there's Agentforce Studio, Agentforce Agents. I can click that. I can enable agents. I always like enabling the default Agentforce agent as well.
Yep.
And there we go. So now agents are enabled, and Einstein's enabled, agents are enabled, Data Cloud is set up. So I've completed pretty much all of my step one stuff. Deep breath. Step two. Okay, deploying the test drive sample code. So we've already cloned the repo, so I don't have to do that again because I'm sitting right inside of it right now. Whoops. Okay, that is the mistake I always make. When I double click on something to copy it, the whole line, it actually takes me to the README MD file itself. So instead, I'm going to scroll across that and copy this. What I'm doing is I'm going to deploy everything except agents first. So there's a manifest file, and that's what I'm doing, SF project deploy start. I'm saying I want to use a manifest. That manifest file is here in this manifest folder, everything but agents. And basically, this is just saying, hey, this is all the stuff that I want to deploy to this org. And let me start that.
Yeah, and it is very interesting. I really like how you have different package.xml there, so that you can control what metadata goes and in what order, etc. And this is one of the capabilities of Salesforce DX tooling that I've often seen developers like sort of ignoring or not using it often. It's wonderful actually to be able to control that. Sometimes you need that control,
Agreed. Also, I wanted to show you this. You see we have a responsive CLI user interface. Mm-hmm. If I gave it more room by dragging the terminal up, it showed me the more detailed this more detailed set of kind of deployment status information. That's a really cool feature that we added to the CLI. Another one, sorry, it's a little bit of a sidetrack. I don't know that a lot of people know this, but when you do a deployment, I had to scroll back up above all of, the notes about what was deployed. But you see the status succeeded. Sometimes when the status has actually failed, this can be a useful trick. I'm holding the command key and I'm clicking this button. I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to open this.
Whoa, that's
right?
New learning right there for me too. Oh.
And it opens directly to the deployment details page for that deployment.
Nice. You know what? You just saved me some more clicks, Vivek.
Thank you. No, and the reason why this is useful is sometimes, especially in a failed deploy, the there seems to be more useful information here in the deployment status page about which components fail than than I might actually get from here that actually gets sent back from the metadata API. So I like this as a nice trick in my pocket when I want to debug a tricky deploy that didn't work. So that's
Nice.
why I wanted to show you all that. Okay, so we're back to this. We just did the project deploy start with the everything except agents. Now I'm going to go ahead and deploy the agents.
Mhm. And is there a reason, Vivek, that you have to do it that way, or like was there a reason for doing it step by step, or?
Yeah, so the agent that I'm about to deploy, I mean, the manifest deploys any agents that I have, but the actual agent that's getting deployed is this local info agent. This
Mm,
local info agent has topics that have actions, and those actions are have dependencies like a prompt template, and there's
I
some
see.
Apex. It should all be deployable together.
Yeah, yeah,
But
exactly.
and it was about 2 months ago, and then it stopped being deployable together. So I think there's a lot of the metadata for agents is moving fast,
Mm,
right? And so
mm,
I think sometimes certain things are maybe get lost in the shuffle, and so that
I see.
um, that order of deployment seems to be not quite working yet. So for safety's sake, I just do the separate deploys.
Awesome. Yeah, perfect, perfect.
Okay. So these were deployed successfully, and then same thing kind of happens for this next bit, which is I'm going to deploy the agent tests. Now we're gonna do stuff with the CLI later. We're gonna generate agent test spec files. We're gonna actually generate agents themselves. Like we're gonna do a lot of kind of custom building as well.
Hmm.
I just want to show everyone like how to do like one initial setup just so that they have all the metadata if they wanted to just jump right in and like run agent tests, for example. So
Right.
that's why we're doing all this. So let me do that last deployment, the agent tests.
So again, for everyone here, remember that all tests that you write is also a metadata behind the scenes.
Exactly. Here we have this AI evaluation definition metadata. We're going to see later actually how we can use these new YAML spec files, agent tests spec files, so
Mhm.
that we can modify our agent tests a lot easier. But Mo, you make a great point that like the fact that this is all metadata means that all of the tooling that we have from the pro code side with the Salesforce CLI, it can move metadata from org to org.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And we'll get into the metadata also. I know this metadata is complex because there are multiple aspects of metadata. Maybe we can go through that later. Vivek, like,
Absolutely. Okay, so next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna create an AFDX test drive agent user. So the reason why I'm going to create a user is that sometimes if you're making an agent for real,
mhm,
you probably want to create an agent user for it. Now, when you create agents like either through the UI or when you use the agent creator commands from the CLI, uh, the org will automatically create an agent user for you, and that's a super convenient thing. But just in case you don't go that way, because like we didn't use agent creator, we actually deployed an agent.
mhm,
This is an important step to follow, and I've got some convenience. Oops, I did it again. I've got some convenience steps for you here. First is I need to run a quick query because I need to get the ID of the profile
mhm,
for the Einstein agent user profile. I need this because here in the data import folder, there's this user.json file.
mhm.
And this makes it easy for me to create a user. So I don't have to go into setup and do a bunch of stuff, but I do need to, have a profile ID instead of like, the placeholder that I had. Also, this username, I have to specify something so it's unique. So this is my AFDX agent, and I'm going to be, this is Vivek Dev Live.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure that username does not exist globally, but we'll find out in a second if that is true or not.
Yeah. Also, one point I would like to add here, Vivek, is so the agent that you're creating is a service agent, and there are multiple types of agents that you can create. Like you can have employee agent, you can have agent for Slack, then you can have agent for service agent. And some of these agents require their own user because they run in that context when you run that when you run any agent actions. So that's why you need it. Like for example, service agent, you definitely need that user. But I think there are also, Vivek, agents like employee agents that they run in the user context. So like I know the default agent user that doesn't require having to have like a dedicated user.
Great point. Great point. You're right. I think you're exactly right about the employee agent. It doesn't need it. I love that the service agents need to have a user, right? Like the whole idea of the agent needing to be bound by some kind of known set of permissions is just a great. I think that's a great part of um, of Salesforce's implementation of agents with Agentforce,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Like,
governance, right? Like just treating
right.
these agents as just like normal user. So that way you can govern it, you can control the permissions, you can, create sharing rules for them. So all kind of great stuff that our platform has.
Right. And imagine if you were not using Agentforce and you're just like rolling your own, DIY system for agentic apps, you'd
Yeah.
have to build a custom security model for all of that. Because Agentforce DX is built on top of the Salesforce platform, we actually get to use reuse all of these platform primitives like users, like profiles, like permission sets, and all the security context that goes with that to actually make it easier to understand what an agent can do and can't do. So it's again, I think this is a cool part of how all this works. What I'm about to show now is I'm using the SF. Maybe it's easier to see up here. SF data import tree command, and I'm going to say import that user.json data. So this is a really cool way of creating a user that folks might not be aware of.
Yeah, there are a lot of cool ways. I like this approach. One of the approach that I use, Vivek, is to write a test class, basically, meaning
Mhm.
a Apex class. And because you can call that Apex class from CLI to, I just call. Like I pass a bunch of parameters, just call them, and boom, it goes and creates it without me having to do like X number of clicks.
Nice. Okay, then the last thing I need to do with this agent, I do need to give it some permission sets. So these agent users need to not just have the right profile, they have to have certain permission sets. So I'm going to add this. The name of my agent was, what did I just create it as?
So we have a question. I think it's a comment from Michael Jordan. So he says, "Is anyone following along? I'm a bit lost in GitHub app setup." Michael, this is not a workshop, so you don't have to like follow us step by step, and definitely don't be paced for a workshop. So feel free to get hands off the code, and maybe once you watch a recording, or once you're off this webinar, you can try it out.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and we're almost done with the setup stuff. I think that Mo, you make a great point. If any of you want to follow along and actually run this later, the fact that you can come back to the recording of this live stream and see us go through it or see me go through it, hopefully will help you out.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the agent created. Now I actually want to assign that agent that agent user to my local info agent. And I'm going to use one of the new commands that we have from the CLI. Let me clear this just so I can get this higher up. So I'm going to use the sf org open agent command, and I'm going to say that I want to open the local info agent. Now, what's great about this is that this is going to take me directly into the agent builder for the local info agent. Let me just
Yeah,
dismiss
and
this.
this is awesome. I just want to take a pause here, Vivek, and this is very awesome because I'll tell you one of the cool things about this whole thing here is once you kind of have these shortcuts, right? No matter how many agents you have, you'll be able to easily navigate than having to go through setup, go again to the agent force, find your agents, and so it's saving a lot of
Right.
clicks. And that's why I recommend developers to learn CLI, because then you can automate a lot of these things. And of course, we don't want to steal your thunder on MCPs, etc. But definitely those are going to be multipliers in the future. So definitely you should invest some time looking at these commands.
And you know what? Can I just let me? I love your call out of that, because we would, if I wanted to show how many clicks it would take, we'd be wasting valuable time to show other stuff. But you're right; it's a lot of clicks to get to the right agent. Mo makes a great point about learning the CLI. If you are somebody like me, who, like, I literally worked in Microsoft the first half of my career because I was terrified of CLI commands.
Mm.
So I uh, I am not a natural CLI person. I've become much better over the last 15 years, but it's not my native cup of tea. There is a Salesforce CLI superpower called
Mhm.
SF. God,
Search.
SF search thing.
There you
No, oh God, well, let me see. Yep, it is SF search. Thank you.
go. Yeah.
I've been so focused on agent commands, I forgot. So SF search, this is every command that the CLI knows about. And I can quickly, like, just look for agent commands, or just look for, I think it was something related to test, if I'm doing right, or open, that last command. See, and then it narrows things down. And if I want to just hit enter, I actually can get the help for any command, right here inside of the terminal. So that's a super secret way to to get knowledge about different CLI commands as you go. But back here inside of Agent Builder, I'm going to open up the settings, and I want to set the agent user. And so this is that agent user that we just created. So I'm
Mhm.
going to select that. I'm going to hit save.
What's it telling?
I'm going to hit save again. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes it does this. Let me try that again.
There you go.
Yep.
That's a little bug right there.
Little bug. Yep. And then I know that everything is kind of ready to go here. So I'll go ahead and activate this now, because later on, if we do agent preview, it'll need to be an active agent. And I can test if this works by saying, hello. Are there any local events for movies?
Wow.
And what this is doing is it's actually using a very specific topic,
Mhm.
and this topic is using a special prompt template. This did everything we need, so I'm gonna go ahead and close out of this. I saw that this worked, but if we have time later, I'll show you the prompt template, and I'll talk about why we have this. This is all imagined by the agent, but that's intentional, because this is not a functional thing, but this is here to help demo, like, how to write agent tests, how to kind of do agent previews. And so I needed to build something for this agent so that at least it could come up with content. And we'll see some of that later on with the agent tests.
Mhm.
So I've activated that. The last kind of setup thing I need to do, and I'm going to do that by leaving the agent builder, and then I click on it again. I'm going to go to the viewing the details of the agent. So I know that it can be kind of a confusing thing. There's the agent builder, and I had settings there, but there's also more agent settings that you can get at in this, agent details page. And in particular, it's this connections.
Mhm.
So one of the pieces of metadata that was deployed was a connected app. Um, in order to do agent preview from the CLI and eventually from VS Code by Dreamforce, we have to basically set the agent up so that it knows that it can accept API-based connections.
Yeah.
And so I want to create an API connection. The integration name must be like, this is like agent
Yeah, and
preview.
while you are doing that, Vivek, right? So even if you are using agents as an API, this is exactly what you do. Basically, that is how you can access agents through API. You basically create a connected app. You connect that connected app to the agent so that we can use the connected app to do the authentication between the agent infrastructure and your local machine or your API or your app, etc. So this is
Exactly.
the same process.
Exactly right. Exactly right. There is one extra detail that I want to do with that connected app. I'm just gonna, I'll keep this open.
Yeah.
I'll back out here. Connected app. So the connected app that was deployed when we did that, everything except agents deploy, that was this agent preview connected app. I'm going to open this up and I'm going to click edit policies.
Mm-hmm.
And then scroll to the bottom, and this is the key thing, this JOT-based access token settings for named users. I'm going to check that. The token timeout 30 minutes is fine. I'm going to hit save. That's an important step because it ensures that when I try later on to authenticate using this connected app, it will the connected app will give me a JOT-based access token. There's a different kinds of access token, opaque and JOT-based. The JOT-based tokens are newer, and a lot of the new functionality like agents, APIs, like Data Cloud, they require JOT-based access tokens. I'll give you a preview. I mean, what we're going to do later on is I'm going to authenticate a different user to
Yeah.
use, this token. But later this month, the Salesforce CLI is actually coming out with a new feature where I can create multiple auth tokens for the same username. So what we're going to see here, like I actually had to create a totally separate user in this org. Actually, I'm going to maybe need to see that later. So I may as well just get this ready now. I created a totally separate user, agent API user, just so I could do agent preview. By the end of June, I won't have to do that anymore because the CLI will support multiple authentication types with a single user. So just previewing that for later. Okay, so we are
Yeah.
getting closer to being done. We configured the local info agent. I opened
Yeah.
the settings. I did that. Preview the connected app. I did that.
And then the authentication.
Yeah, I did create the user already.
Mm-hmm.
We just went through the policies, did that. And then,
This is the connected
you know
app.
what? I may as well just finish this setup as well. So this retrieve the agent preview connected app from your org. So if I do this, copy that.
Is that for showing up like or basically retrieving the new edits that you did?
Yes, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing that we're missing, so the setting or the step a few steps from now is going to require I specify a client ID, or another way of saying it is the consumer key.
Consumer key. Yeah.
Right now, I could get that information by
Yeah. You
going
can go to the connected app page.
right.
And
The easier way of doing that, though, is running this command. I'm just going to do a project retrieve. I'm saying I want a specific type of metadata, connected app. And actually that colon says, don't just give me all connected apps, give me the connected app with the API name, agent preview. So I hit enter. And by the way, for anybody who's not using Git when they do development, please start using Git. I mean, you will be by default because you had to git clone this, but the reason why is this. I just did that retrieve. If I open up ForceApp, do you see like the color? Like this is now, yellowish orange. to
Mm-hmm.
Cage. I don't know what that is exactly. I love that I know whenever I do retrieve operations, I can see quickly what changed. I can actually go into Git, do a Git compare, so I know exactly what changed and see it downloaded this consumer key.
Mm-hmm.
So the consumer key was created when I deployed this connected app. I can close that, just open here instead. So just a really, really strong recommendation to always use Git. Even if you're not like sharing with someone else, just have a local Git,
Mm-hmm.
initialize Git locally, use that. So I copy this consumer key, go back to the preview. Okay. I need to copy that again because I'm going to have to copy other stuff. So I'm going to run this command, and this is just temporary while I'm doing this special secondary auth step.
Yeah, and just for everyone, right, to be clear, why we are doing this step is because we want to preview that agent, basically be able to simulate everything with that agent right from the CLI, and that requires access to the agent API. So
Yep.
CLI today, this is the way to provide CLI access to that connected API. So that's why we are
Yep.
going through all these steps. But as Vivek is saying, in the future version or the future iteration, it'll be much easier because all of these things they're trying to automate for us.
Yep, and everything I'm showing you is in the documentation on the agent preview section. I'm glad that I'm getting to show it to you though, because it's not the easiest. Like,
Yes.
this is definitely not the easiest thing to do. So I'm super thrilled that there is at least going to be a video record of this to show how to do it. So I'm running SF org login web. I'm using this alias agent preview dev live, and then there's the client ID that I copied out of the connected app metadata.
Mm-hmm.
When I hit enter, it's going to pop me over to my browser. Oh, sorry. Before it does that, it's going to say this: OAuth client secret of personal connected app. Press enter if it's not required. It's not required, so I'm just going to hit enter. Now it pops over here. And remember when I said I was going to need to remember this? Okay, my user agent, it was this agent-preview at afdxlive.org.
Mm-hmm. That's the API user. Yeah.
That's the API user.
Yeah.
So
There are different things here. The user for the API itself, because that is how we're going to preview it. And then there
right.
is a user for the service agent itself. And then there is this user that we, of course, as an admin, we have logged into the system. So there are 3 users here.
Okay. Well, I'll get the verification code. I've got that off screen. Give me one moment.
Sure. And again, if you're using the CLI tool as, let's say, for example, only for testing or for development, you don't need to do it. But if you are trying to like really preview the agent and see and simulate that agent directly from your CLI, I think that is where you need all these things.
Yeah, and I know this is, there's a lot here, but if you're eventually following along or doing the test drive, I highly recommend using this, because there are some nice convenience things that you can do, and especially when you're building agents, that you couldn't do if you don't have the agent preview. So strongly recommend this. And I know that I've hit the right one, because you see it's saying agent preview. I'm authenticating with that specific connected app, and so I'm going to say allow.
Yeah, that's very important. Sometimes what I've seen is if the scopes are wrong, if you don't get the scopes wrong, if you don't get the scopes correct, you will see that OAuth screen is going to fail, basically, because it will match the scope. So you see, that's why Vivek did that export SF auth scopes there as an environment variable. And he provided all the scopes like refresh token. And this is the scope that matches to the scope that is configured in the connected app.
Thank you for pointing that out, and then I'll one up you on that, because we have to. I'm going to kill the terminal in a second, because if you don't change that and then try to do a regular login, it won't work right. So, but I'll show that in a minute. I want to test to see if this worked right. So I'm going to do SF agent preview. And for the -A flag, I'm going to do, that's the alias of the user that I just authenticated, agent preview dev live.
So there is one question that I'll try to answer. So CLI is an AI client using API user to call service agent. That's exactly correct.
All right, so I'm gonna, it knows what agents are active. Remember that step where we activated the agent? This is why we did it, because to do agent preview, the agent has to be in the activated state. So if I didn't activate the agent, then this would have gotten error because there would be no agents, and so there's a, it would say something like, can't have any selections here or something like that. So I'm going to say local info agent. I'm not going to save the transcripts. I'm just doing a test. We'll do the transcript stuff later. Moment of truth.
Oh, there you go. Okay, there you go. You see that's the agent right there within your CLI, and how cool this is actually.
Yep.
This is amazing because
in fact, what was the question that we asked earlier? It was,
the question was pretty simple. The question was like, so the CLI is an AI client using API user to call that service agent. It's sort of, yes, it's sort of client to call that service agent. Yeah.
Yep. And we'll see why in just a moment, because we're done with the setup. But I asked it this question. We're going to see if it we're going to see the answer. Okay, cool. There's the answer. I'm going to hit escape to exit this. The session ended. I'm going to clear the terminal. And at that point, you know what? I'm going to kill the README because we are ready to just start playing with some stuff. We've done all the setup. So just to recap what we did with setup, I had a pre-existing developer edition environment that that I had already kicked off and completed the data cloud setup for. I enabled Lightning Knowledge. I enabled Einstein AI. I enabled Agentforce. We deployed a bunch of metadata following the instructions, and then we did the setup, for the connected app, for the extra user, which I had also created. So we have these 3 users. We have all the stuff set up. We're ready to start playing around with Agentforce DX Pro Code tools.
Awesome.
Okay. So I think we could start with maybe some of the agent creation stuff, just simply so that people know what's there. There's a command for, there's a process for creating an agent. It starts with SF agent. And by the way, I'm going to show you some of the autocomplete. As I'm typing, if I don't know what to do next, I just hit tab, and you can see that these are the different commands that come next. Excuse me. So I want to do SF agent generate.
Yes.
And then I want to generate, an agent spec. Now I'm just going to hit enter. I'm not going to provide any flags because there are a lot of the new Agentforce DX Pro Code tools from the CLI engage you with an interview to try to make kind of things easier the first time you're doing things. So that's what I'm in right now. I'm in this interview, and I want to say, in fact, you know what? Why don't I just make that bigger so that we can highlight the fact in the interview? I want to do a customer agent. I'm going to say the name of my company is Coral Cloud. Description: we're a luxury resort. Role of the agent: help guests. That's it. So with very little input, I've just been given an agent spec. If I hold command and hit click, it's going to open this agent spec inside of the editor. Now, this agent spec is a YAML-based artifact that is going to be used in our next step, which is agent creation. I can see that this agent spec, based on what I provided, right? Coral Cloud, luxury resort, help guests. The agent generate spec command uses AI to give you back some suggested topics, right? So like the topics, we start honing in on what an agent would do, right? And you know what? If you're helping guests, personalized itinerary planning makes sense. Managing fulfilling in-room dining service. Yeah, these all kind of make sense.
Yeah,
The
these are
next,
topics for your agents, and you can override too.
right, like if I don't like any of these, I could override them. We can actually see what let's just see like what would be created directly from this. So if I did the next step in agent creation, which is SF agent create,
Mm-hmm.
and then if I hit dash dash and then hit tab, I can use autocomplete to see what the different flags are.
Mm-hmm.
And so in this case, I want to pass it the spec. Or actually, you know what? I forgot. I think if I just do SF agent create, I'll get an interview.
Yeah.
So this is great. It's a much easier way than doing the full command. So when I run SF agent create without any flags, it's gonna look and see what are all the YAML files in my project.
Mm-hmm.
I can do a search on this. So I knew it was agent. Oh, there we go. Agent spec. By default, when you create a new agent spec, it saves it as this, to a specs/agent spec.yaml. That's the one I want to use. What's the name? Let's make this my first agent.
Mm-hmm.
It's not local info. Okay, my second agent. Let's do that instead. My second agent. And you know what? I'm going to abort that. I just hit Command C. Do you know why? Because what I really wanted to do was this. I want to do this in preview mode. So, okay, so preview.
And we'll tell you what is preview mode soon.
Yeah, we'll see in 1 second. My second agent. API name looks fine. Okay, so now what's happening is Salesforce is using AI to create like a JSON plan that would be used to generate to create all of the agent info, like topics and maybe even actions. Because I did this in the preview mode, it didn't automatically create anything. So I can, it created this my second agent preview JSON file. If I command click that, I can see it here. And so we now see that there's more details that were generated automatically to try to get this agent, to be what I want it to be, right? So now there's the agent description, and we recognize that from the spec. But now here's some sample utterances that the Agent Creator API will use. We can see that for the topic personalized itinerary planning, they're suggesting several actions, employee copilot actions, check events. If I had more actions in my org that were functionally relevant to this type of topic, then the Agent Creator API would figure all of that out for me. So this is what would be created, and this is kind of a nice way. Like if you're not quite sure and you just want to double check, and maybe if I didn't like some of this, like I'll be honest, I didn't really want where was it? Not personalized. I didn't really want room service requests to be part of what we did. I can go back to the agent spec, and I'm just going to kill this that option, right? In fact, I don't want dining reservations either. And if I wanted to make more or less, I could do all of that.
Yeah, iteration, basically iteration, right? You iterate upon it and create necessary topics and necessary actions for the topics, basically.
Exactly. And there's something else that I could do as well. So I give this a little bit more space just so we can see. I have a partial agent spec here, local info agent partial spec. Now here you can see that I spent more time on my company description than a luxury resort. I spent a lot more time on the role, and it may be over time that as an organization, once you start building more and more agents, there may be a very specific company description that you're always going to use. Remember, the more information or the better information that's placed here, the better the the agent creator will be able to figure things out. So I can actually do a new spec from that spec. So if I do SF agent generate agent spec, and I do this, what's the, if I specify a spec file, right? And I want to specify from specs, and it's the local info agent partial spec. It'll actually take that, and here where I say I want 2 topics max, it'll use that and it'll create a new spec from that. So that's the agent spec part.
Yeah.
You know, we're
Vivek, I'll pause here. There's some really interesting questions that are coming from our community.
Okay.
One from Richard Clark. Richard, thanks for being on the call. So,
hey, Richard.
So Richard says, I don't think I want my devs deciding what topics to include. I want my business analysts decide that and ensure we are not creating any conflicts. So that's a valid question. And again, Richard, it depends on the workflow of the company, right? We want to be flexible here. If that's the case, you will get the topic and all other descriptions from your company as a developer. And all you will do is just integrate into this YAML, so it can be version controlled, maintained, etc.
Yeah.
If you want to add something to that.
Yeah, no, I think agent creation is, you know, like this is a good way to just maybe build your first agent, you know. But I think that once you're familiar and comfortable with agents, you're probably not going to be using, you know, the agent creator tool anymore. Like everything I've just been showing you, if you've never created an agent, this is a good way to do it with the CLI, which maybe means that, let's do this. I'll just finish out like the agent creation example. And if we use like SF agent create, not preview this time. So we're going to use that same agent spec. We already have a local info agent, so I'm going to call it, you know, we'll do the my second agent again. My second agent. This is actually going to create an agent this time. Now, once it's done, we'll look at what was created, and I'll show you kind of how to delete and clean up. This is really good just to get your first, you know, first agent kind of built under your belt. But if we look at what just got created, we see that my second agent, this bot was created, a GenAI planner for my second agent, and then some topics were created. So all of that was created automatically in the org and then retrieved locally for us to use. To be honest, if I made a mistake and we don't want to use any of that, then we can do SF
delete an agent, basically.
Project source delete. Now, this shows you that there's a new pseudo type called agent.
Yeah, pseudo type. That's a very important word actually there. Pseudo type. That means it doesn't exist. There is no metadata called agent. Agent is a broader metadata of, you know, GenAI plugins, planners, bot version, also GenAI functions that's right there. Right. So these are all composing and making that agent. And that is why there's pseudo metadata type. So you don't have to refer individually. You can refer everything combined.
Exactly. So if I say it was my _second agent, it's going to go ahead and delete things. Now, the CLI is asking me, hey, there were some topics that were created when this agent was created. Now, topics are not necessarily unique to an agent. Topics can be assigned to many agents. So that's why it didn't just automatically delete that. It's asking me for permission. So I said, yeah, I hit spacebar and selected both of those. Let's clean up the topics. It's showing me everything it's going to delete. And do I want to proceed? Yes. And it goes ahead and cleans all of that.
And you can see it deleted the bot version, the GenAI planner there, the plugin, the functions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's do something fun now with agent tests. So once you've built up your agent, testing it becomes a really critical part of iteratively building and deploying a really solid agent. Let me just hide all these guys for now. And actually, too many tests there. So there's that local info agent that we deployed. I'm going to hit play on this test, and these tests are going to run. Now, these tests are running from VS Code. I could also run agent tests from the CLI. We'll probably see an example of that a little bit later as well. But what's great about the test running inside of VS Code is when this finishes up, I'll be able to look at the results in a really, kind of clean, nice, easy.
Oh, there you go.
Well, that's not exactly what I wanted. It shouldn't have passed. So I think I must have, I purposely have broken things so that it doesn't pass, but it looks like, unfortunately,
Looks like you also fixed it in a way.
yeah, I've already, I had deployed the fixed versions. So
Yeah, we can revert it. I mean, we are not
let me just
here.
clean this up a little bit real quick. Sorry about that.
No worries. So as Vivek is actually going through reverting some of the code to show you how the experience or the testing experience would look like when something fails, right?
Should have failed.
One of the things that I wanted to point out is, like, doing this way actually brings more standardized DX practices into your project. Even if you're building agents, basically you will have everything version controlled, including your topics, your actions, and also much easier to review this way within the human readable YAML file than having to go around with the XML, trying to hunt down that one simple XML tag, etc. Right? It's going to make it very easier if you maintain this project structure, like the spec, the templates, etc. It's going to be much easier for the DX.
True. And you know what? It's funny, that really should not have passed. So I'm not quite sure, because let's do this. Whether service class, that is the wrong thing. So that should be fine. Deploy this source to org. Unchanged. Okay. Well, gosh, my code is so strong that even when it's supposed to not work, it's
working.
Yeah. So let's look at the spec that you were talking about. So if I look at here we are, extended test spec. This is the test spec that goes with these tests. There we go. So here we've got, we have the test results, tell me about local events. This is an utterance. When you do an agent test, okay, did that utterance lead to the right topic? Like, did the agent pick the right topic? I was expecting local events. The actual was local events. Any actions? In this case, no actions were expected, because this utterance of tell me about local events, I don't specify any interests, and so the agent should politely prompt for them. So this is really an interesting part about agent tests. You know how if I'm doing an Apex test and it's get square root, right, and I give it 9, I expect 3, right? And so I do my assertions based on what I expect the outcome to be, because it's deterministic.
Yes.
This agent tests are semi-deterministic, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I know what's expected, but I'm not writing a test that says, I expect it to say, what type of events are you interested in? Instead, I'm like, hey, because the user hasn't indicated their interests, they should politely be prompted for them. I'm like describing what I expect the result to be, not saying literally. And sure enough, the agent did say, yeah, what kind of events are you interested in? So this is great. And then there's some metrics, coherence and conciseness. Gosh, you know what?
You could easily break this one.
Yes, I'm going to break it by putting completeness.
Yeah, just put some, just put some unexpected, topic name selection, and it will break. Or just
Yeah,
give some
I
dummy actions, it will break.
have a weird feeling. I wonder if I need to like reload my environment because, by the way, so what you're seeing me do is I'm actually going into the XML. This is the actual XML of the test, and I kind of want to. I'm trying to verify something. I'm seeing this verifying completeness. This is not present. So I feel like because I'm connected to so many different orgs that maybe it's not talking to the right org. I want to reload my window.
Mhm. Interesting. Usually something breaks in codeLive and we are fixing. It's other way around now.
Yes, yes,
It's
that's
fine.
exactly what's happening. And you know what? I'm gonna try two different directions on this. So while that is running, from there, I also want to run SF agent test run, and I'm going to run this from the CLI just to see if there's something funky, because the CLI, I'm pretty sure, is going to the right default org.
Mhm, mhm.
Um,
Yeah, sometimes that the other side of the browser, right? Like the Explorer window, sometimes it requires refresh, right? Like
yeah,
I've seen that happening. It caches basically within the
yep.
VS Code for the experience. So
And by the way, what I'm doing here with the CLI, I'll say so I'm running the agent test run command. This can be either synchronous or asynchronous. I'm saying that I wanted to wait 5 minutes for this test to complete, and so that's why it's kind of, oh shoot, JSON. Let me cancel that actually. Clear. I did not want the JSON version. Run that again. Okay, this is better. So now there's some nice status when we run this from the CLI. So I think the fact that it's taking long means that maybe it wasn't going to the right org before. So we probably have a few seconds to kill. Are there any other questions while we're waiting for these two?
yeah, there are
Complete?
so many questions actually, which we'll definitely get onto. But I think one of the interesting question that really popped into here was yeah. So let's see. By the way, there was a good comment on the CLI being useful and developers appreciating now, having seen this, like how useful tool this can be.
Can I just say how much I appreciate that feedback,
Yeah.
because it's we've heard some of that, and the pivot to Agentforce, it was really big, for for all of Salesforce. And I think the platform CLI team, which part of us really put a lot of effort into making these tools. We really wanted to help developers get up to speed faster, and not have to suffer through a lot of org based builders. And so I just want to say how much I appreciate that feedback.
Yep. Other question is, sometimes around how would you connect to an agent that is created in a different org, not in this org, let's say, in a different org. How would you do that? Is
Good question.
through the
Good
CLI.
question. So first thing is you'd still have to have all of that connection stuff done. So
Yes.
everything that you saw us go through would have to have been done. Then you would just specify the user. Let's see, while this is running, if I open up another shell,
Hmm.
so I've still got this cooking over there.
Hmm.
So I hit the plus button to open up new shell. If I did SF agent preview,
Hmm.
this is the user that we just created, right?
Yes.
Um, if I just do this is an alias to a different agent preview user in a different org.
Mm. And you should be able to do it.
And I could do it. Now, it's all the same demo I'm using, so it's it's the same local
Yeah,
info.
same agent. I
Right.
understand. All the orgs have same agent here.
Right. But it's that flag that tells me which, or tells the CLI which org to connect to.
Yeah. Can I
Um,
make one comment
sure.
here, Vivek? So I think, investing in the Salesforce CLI, if you are building agents, right? Investing in the Salesforce CLI, I think is just like investing in your entire infrastructure at this point. It's like infrastructure, right? You have infrastructure in place, it is very easy to iterate upon things. And
Yep.
around the testing, I just have one important note that I observed when you are talking about determinism and non-determinism. Part of it is determinism there, like being able to find that right topic, being able to find that right actions. These are all should be deterministic. I mean, even though the agent is using like reasoning to do this is absolutely the things that you want your agent to get 100% right. Like there's no question, it can't get 90% accurate for business critical things, right? It has
Right.
to get these actions sequence them. But that format or the response will differ, because you can tell something in English in like 10 different ways. So the
Yep.
agent is going to do it in a different way. It's just as long as the meaning is same, and that is non-determinism. As long as the meaning is same, that is fine. And that's why you should test for that similarity there. It's not like Apex test that you should like aim for like 80% coverage, 90% coverage. It's more around these three metrics that we give, like completeness, conciseness, and coherence. And then of course we also have this latency too, if that's important to you.
Yep. And you know what I might do, because I want people to see these results. I might actually switch again
Hmm.
to one of the other orgs, because I'm not sure why this is happening in this org. Let me show some things to kind of maybe connect the dots for folks. Um, Here
Yeah.
I am. I'm back in that org. If I do agent in the quick
That's
find, I go to
testing.
testing center. So I should see. So these are the different tests that are
Hmm.
created. Interesting.
Hmm.
So I have at least one completed test. And this is where like a low code user can come in and see the test results. Now, okay, good. That's what I would expect. Um, Updated 0 minutes ago. Oh, does that mean? Okay, sweet. I'm
Hmm.
so,
There
I'm
you go.
s- I'm so happy it finally broke.
Wow.
Okay. Now we can see all kinds of stuff.
I,
Uh, God, where do I want to
I
start?
yeah, um I don't think we have been ever happier this much for seeing code break actually.
Right. All right. So let me show you the cool stuff now. Okay, here I am. This was that same test that we looked at, right? You remember the utterance, you
Yeah.
remember the topic pass and everything. Um, Here's the thing. This has a completeness metric. The reason why this test is failing, because everything is passing except for completeness. Now, what's crazy is this is a false negative, right? Because we expected the agent to not be able to answer the question. But the completeness metric is very upset. It's saying, hey, this answer does not provide any information about local events. It only asks for more information about the type of events the user is interested in.
Hmm.
Okay, yes. While technically true, it's not functionally correct, right? This should not have been a failed test. So that's why I can use my agent spec, this test spec, right?
Hmm.
If I go here, um, I can quickly take out that completeness metric. Now, y'all saw me before when I was trying to confirm things like, I went into this XML file. Just
Hmm.
close that for a second, just so you can see. Um, this makes my eyes bleed. Like
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
I don't I don't want to edit this.
Seriously, that's a lot of XML. I mean, that's problem with every metadata. Honestly, with Salesforce is like, it's a hurdle to like do this. But at least I'm glad that there is an infrastructure on top of that agent metadata right there, like this, to make it
Right, because
easier.
even like this, like I know that the right test case is up near the top,
Hmm.
but just figuring out that, okay, well there's the completeness. I wanted to, okay, if I delete that, but is this the right, like where's the utterance? Oh, the utterance is down here. like it's the metadata itself is not organized in a way that makes sense to me, right? But this is super easy. What's the utterance? Tell me about local events. And actually, if I bring back the panel, if I forgot about
Mm.
which metric I wanted to get rid of, it's completeness. See, I've got the output here with all of the details. I have my spec here, so I can quickly like completeness. Yes, yes. Okay, that's right. Whoops, I screwed that up. Just a little more gentle. Okay, I hit save. Now I can modify this agent test by doing this. Right? If I do SF agent test create,
Mhm.
and let's do this. And I can give it the API name of the test. I'm actually it's the same test. I want to override it. So it's the local info agent test.
Mhm.
And it's going to say, hey, that already exists. Do I want to override it? I say yes. And it's going to say, what spec do you want to use? And it's that extended test spec. So I hit yes. And it's going to basically rebuild that agent test from my spec. Now, I did it kind of like, maybe it might seem easy because I was being asked questions. Honestly, that's a lot less easy than doing this. I could do SF agent create test, and then I should have test create.
Mhm.
And if I up arrow, I can actually see where I've, I had previous ones where I use a flag to specify that spec file. I use another flag to specify that API name, and then hit enter. And because it's still asking me, do I want to override it? I could, if I wanted to, if I didn't even want to answer that question, I could just add another flag to skip the overwrite confirmation, right?
Mhm.
I'll say yes, overwrite, and boom. And so that kind of quick combination of SF agent create, up arrow a couple times, see the right command. It's a lot faster than going through that interview every time.
Mhm.
All right, so let's run the test again.
Mhm. And one of the things here is writing tests actually take time. I
Yeah.
really want to be honest about it. I mean, like building agents is much faster, because you got to figure out few things here and there. But again, it takes a lot of prompt engineering here and there to build that agent. But once you have the agent, again, building tests, you really have to like sit down, write these tests, play around with it. It does take time. It's not magic that you will have all these tests. I mean, we have auto generate tests too, like a feature, low code feature that can generate these tests. But a lot of times, again, it's a lot of iteration. So you have to balance between prompt engineering and also using your own your own knowledge about your agent to write the test cases that you would want to test your agent against. So it's going to be one of those important skills. If agents are going to be the thing that we're going to building, only way to maintain them is by writing tests, because you're going to write these evaluation metrics, you're going to define them, and then you're going to keep it. So when you iterate over your agents, you're pretty sure that this is how it's affecting your entire agent, your entire agent setup. Because you can
Yep.
make a tweak change in one of those prompts and can break your agents again. So if you don't have this infrastructure, like if you don't have the CLI running all these things for you automatically, probably it will slow down. Just like how if you don't have DevOps in place, it will slow down your software development lifecycle. That thing doesn't change for agents too.
Agreed. And those are fantastic points. And that's you really highlight why um, why it was so important for us to create this extra YAML artifact, these different specs, especially for agent tests. Agent creation, it's not going to be a big iterative thing. Agent testing is super iterative, for
Yes.
all the reasons you just said. And it's just so much easier to edit natural language when it's like this. Now, before we jump back into the past results. If you are starting fresh and you didn't have, this, my sample agent test specs, there is a helper to help you at least get started with your own test spec, and that's the SF agent generate test spec command. If I start this will be another interview. I'm saying I want to test an agent. It'll look at my local project. And in this case, the only agent I have in my local project is the local info agent. So you want to make sure you run this after you have retrieved agents into your project or created agents and you have the metadata in the project. But then I'll say, what's the name for the test? And this is, my first test. All right, agent test. Description is optional. I'll skip it. And then I'm, adding test cases, what's the weather like? And this could be anything. And then what are the topics that are expected? So it's reading, again, local files to see that for the local info agent, it's connected to only these two topics. If I had 200 topics in my local source, it would only show these two because these are the two that are actually connected to the local info agent. So I'm going to say, what was it? Local. What was my utterance? The utterance was, what's the weather like? Yeah. So I should use local weather, right? What are the expected actions? Sometimes no actions are expected, but sometimes, in this case, like check weather, that's the action. So I'm going to hit space to select that. Expected outcome,
Natural
agent
language
should, give a forecast.
Yeah, and this is much easier. Actually, this is much easier. I'll tell you because I've done both through the low code experience and this experience. Right? In the low code way, you are actually using CSV files to write all these tests. And as soon as you add more tests, you will see, especially if you are not used to working with like CSV files and all, it's going to get complex. It's going to get complex to maintain and write these tests. And just editing the editor, it's much better experience.
Here's what, this is exactly what Mo was talking about. If I said new test here, new test, that's fine. And then move on.
There you go. You have to generate and you have to upload every time, and that's
right. Now there is a cool feature where you can actually from the UI generate test cases. Now I want you to know, from a roadmap perspective, we're working with the team that builds Testing Center, and we're seeing about getting API access to generating AI tests. Now, just in case, like while you're waiting, if you want to generate a bunch of tests with AI, you can do that. That's what this in the sample. That's what this is supposed to be. This AI generated local info agent tests. The metadata is already in the org here.
Yeah, evaluations. I think it's called evaluation definition.
Right. Huge XML file. What are we at? Like, if I keep scrolling, 667 lines of XML. That's less fun than a spec, but the good news is I can actually turn this into a spec. Do that there for a second, just before I clear this. I can do SF agent generate test spec. And in this case, I'm going to use the from definition flag. Okay. And then I have to give it the path to that AI evaluation definition file. So I know that it is in force app main default, and I know it is AI evaluation definitions, and it is this one, the AI generated local. Okay. So I hit that local info agent test spec YAML. You know what? I can overwrite it. Actually, no, not. I'll do this the second one. Specs / AI gen test spec dot YAML. I'm just like following there we go. Okay. So it actually will take all of these, all of this XML, and I can get a test spec, a YAML-based test spec from that. So now this is actually much easier to modify. And so I can kind of get a head start from the AI generated test specs. Then I come here and I actually like fine tune all of it. But I didn't have to start from zero either way. And then the other thing that I didn't start from zero was when you saw that interview. Here's a test spec that was created from that interview, right? And it was super simple. Agents give a forecast, blah blah blah, simple utterance. But now I've got something that I can do this, right? I can just
copy paste, basically.
right,
Copy paste,
right.
copy paste. Yeah.
Copy paste. And so that's a way to use the generator, the local generator to get your first spec file. We've seen how you can get the larger spec file from where was it? Yeah, a larger spec file from the XML. And so it's really meant to kind of work back and forth.
Yeah, yeah. And something I also wanted to add here, Vivek, is what I've also done in the past, and I built a lot of these demos actually to generate these test cases. Once I have that YAML file that you showed, put it into like a tool like ChatGPT or
Yes.
Claude, and say, come up with the variations of utterances for me, like 10 different variations, and you come
Exactly.
up with that, and then you just copy
Exactly.
paste back into your IDE and just iterate.
Exactly. In fact, here's your safe harbor stuff. So my team is working on an MCP, a local MCP server and tools for Salesforce DX.
Yep.
One of the next, like it's in preview right now. And you'll see some announcements later this month with a whole bunch of Agentforce special stuff's happening this month. But one of the first tools in kind of the next round of building that we're going to do is going to be tools for agent testing. So those tools will let you work directly with an MCP compatible host like Agentforce for developers will be, and iterate right here using AI in VS Code, using spec files and everything. Like it'll tie together all of the pieces. So I'm actually doing an AMA with several other PMs and engineers later this month. On
I think,
Salesforce MCP server.
Yeah, and we have
Or
that
MCP in general.
Yeah, we have that listing already created. So if you're on YouTube or LinkedIn, you will see a tile which says MCP. I think it's happening. I quickly forgot the date, but it's something around 25th. Some time frame
June
around.
25th,
Yeah,
exactly.
June 25th, exactly. So June 25th, we'll have that. Make sure that you attend or listen to the recordings of that, because there's a whole lot of things that are happening around MCP here at Salesforce. So
yep. But that's what's so great about these spec files is that if I'm using something that's easier for me to see, and I'm using some kind of a agentic tool to help modify that, then the agent isn't getting too far ahead of me, right? Like I can see what the agent is doing. I can still be the human in the loop. It's just a lot harder for me to do that with XML. I technically could, but the YAML spec files make it so much easier. Let's do the last thing, which is this failure, right? What will the weather be like today? The topic passed, the action passed, the outcome failed. And that's because the agent said this: I'm sorry, but it looks like I'm having trouble accessing weather information. To me, that sounds like there was there's an Apex failure somewhere. Spoiler alert, I know exactly where the Apex failure was. So let's, for the sake of going fast, let's just go right there. I'm going to go into this Apex class, the weather service class, where I happen to know that the weather endpoint actually has an underscore. Let me hit save, and I'm going to deploy this source to the org. Okay, that got deployed. Now we are going to check if that worked using our agent preview tool. So SF agent preview, and it wasn't that one, it was agent preview dev live. I'm going to start that up. I want to talk to the local info agent. This time I am going to save transcripts to an output directory. I'll just use that.
And you're talking to the agent directly from your terminal.
Yep. And so I'm going to say, what's the weather like today?
Uses that Apex action, basically.
Yep. And I now get a successful response. So I don't know how I feel about this visual, but I can't help it. This is what kind of pops into my head. When I work like this, it feels like I'm doing brain surgery on an agent, right? Like, because I'm talking to it, and here's what I mean, like brain surgery, right? You know how you have, like, I've ever seen videos of brain surgery where they like they make the person play trombone or something while they're fiddling around with wires. So let me deploy the source to org. Okay, it changed. Could you check for tomorrow?
The agent should be failing now.
And the agent fails. Like, right? Brain surgery on the agent. Like, so it's nice because I have it here, right? I'm in VSCode, I'm in my pro code tools, and I keep saying VSCode, but this is all works in Code Builder as well. Okay. I've got my Apex class editable here. I've got an agent preview here. If I had to do that in the low code tools, I'd have to have multiple tabs open. I'd have to, everything kind of runs a little bit slower. Like I just can't have the same experience of being an agent brain surgeon in the low code tools that I actually get to have in the pro code tools. So it's one of the big advantages of these. We're just getting started. Mohan, I think we've gone way over.
Yeah, we did go just half an hour way over our time, but that's okay. This is a very important session for our developers.
But I'd love to show, just kind of at least break the presentation part, and we can always answer more questions with just sharing some resources and then some roadmap. Resources are this. There's the Agentforce Developers Guide. There's an AFDX or Agentforce DX section in that guide. And then all of the commands that you saw me use from the CLI, they're all documented in the CLI command reference. And then let's talk about roadmap. Okay, so between now and Dreamforce, there are 3 key areas that we're working on: building, testing, and debugging. And I say debugging, not previewing, because some previewing is just the start of what we're trying to do. For building, right now when you saw us use that agent pseudo type, and this is going to matter more on retrieves, it would only retrieve like first level things like topics and actions. Starting in summer 25, so that's anybody whose orgs have sandbox orgs.
They're already on summer.
Okay, so if you're on summer, then the agent pseudotype, if you do a retrieve with that agent pseudotype, it will not only pull the agent, which means the bot and the bot version, it will pull the GenAI planner. It will pull the GenAI plugins, which are the topics. It'll pull the GenAI functions, which are the actions, but then it'll go a level deeper. So every GenAI function or action is either like an invocable Apex, action, or a prompt template, or a flow, or something like that, right? So all of those will also get retrieved. So if you just need the important stuff about an agent, you just do that one retrieve command with the agent pseudotype, and you'll get all of that metadata without having to worry about multiple retrieves. And then from a usability standpoint, the next thing we're really looking at is finding better ways to have pro code editing of topics and actions, right? Right now to edit a topic or action, editing actions in particular in ProCode, it's across multiple JSON files, and it gets a little tricky. We want to make that a lot easier. For testing, there's some really interesting things coming from the agent testing folks. They're going to start returning session trace logs, so like a link into if you've used the builder, you see that middle panel that kind of says what the agent was thinking. We call that kind of a session trace. So being able to click directly into that in the org to see what thought process an agent went through from a test. We're adding support for prompt template testing, and then adding the ability to have agent tests that are more complex with conversation history, and even having multi-turn tests. So a lot of cool stuff coming for agent tests. And then finally for debug, you saw how we previewed the agent conversation in the CLI. We want to bring that into VS Code as well. So we'll have a new panel that can be opened up, and you can actually have agent conversation previews from there. We want to be able to add session trace information to those as well. Right now, I forgot to show you this. Let me end the session here. Right now, we're getting log files built. So I can see like this is a transcript, basically, what was said back and forth in that conversation. And these are the responses, which has a little bit of extra information, like some of the, plan IDs, feedback IDs. So in addition to this, we want to be able to add the session trace log, here as well. This makes debugging agents, or this will make debugging agents so much easier. And having that session log is going to be a critical feature. So we want to be able to have that in both the CLI and the IDE. And finally, save the best for last. We want to be able to debug Apex.
Yes.
Invoked from the conversation preview. So imagine if, as I was doing this conversation preview, imagine if I had set a breakpoint here.
Yep.
And when it failed, instead of just seeing it looked like there was an issue, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I would see that. But in between turns, it would actually run and look to see if any breakpoints. It would check the debug log, look to see if there's any breakpoints hit, and then pop up the replay debugger, so I can have a replay debug experience directly from an agent test. And the only way you can get the replay debugger now is either you download a log file yourself, or you go to the testing panel and you go to Apex tests, and you have to like start a test in debug mode. So this is a really powerful, absolutely pro code.
That will be massive. That will be massive, Vivek. The last one that you just talked about, the breakpoints from the conversation preview will be massive.
Yep. For anyone who wants to leave us feedback on this, use this short link. It'll take you to the Salesforce CLI's discussions page. Where the CLI team is the team behind Agentforce DX Pro Code as well. And so, since we live there in those GitHub discussions and issues, that's where that feedback will take you. Mo, that's all I got. I'm happy to stay as long as you want for questions.
No, this is awesome. And by the way, everyone listening, right? Vivek woke up at 3 a.m. this morning to prepare all this content, from his busy end-to-end PM, busy PM job. He did all the content job too. So really thankful, first of all, Vivek, for making time. And thank you to everyone actually being able to join us today on the call. Please leave us a feedback. There's a QR code right there, so you can scan and get that GitHub code. We have all the code there, and thanks to Vivek, we have all the instructions there for you to follow through and learn. And we'll also have the recordings up pretty soon. I think it's already available on YouTube because it's a live stream. But I'll try to add some chapters too in the description, so it's easy for you to navigate when you're looking at the on-demand content for this. So with that, Vivek, again, thank you. And again, thank you, everyone. And with that, I will see you on the next one. Thank you.
Thanks, Mo. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.